Baseball's history is filled with legends, towering figures who defined eras with their unparalleled skill and dedication. But intertwined with these tales of triumph are the darker chapters. The stories of those who crossed lines so severe they were permanently exiled from the game they dedicated their lives to, facing the ultimate penalty, a lifetime ban, a scarlet letter that forever tainted their legacy and served as a stark reminder of the integrity MLB strives to uphold. And today, we're unpacking every MLB player exiled forever, starting with the sport's all-time hit king, Pete Rose, whose unparalleled prowess on the field earned him the moniker Charlie Hustle, and an astounding 4,256 career hits with a remarkable 303 batting average, cementing his place as an offensive juggernaut who played with an intensity rarely seen. Yet his legacy took a catastrophic turn when he was banned for life in 1989 by Commissioner A. Bartlett Giamatti. Not for anything he did on the field, but for betting on baseball games, including over 52 games involving his own team, the Cincinnati Reds, while serving as their manager. This transgression violated MLB Rule 21D, a rule so sacrosanct that it predates even Landis's commission, and the exhaustive Dowd report meticulously detailed his gambling activities, leading to a decision that sent shockwaves through the baseball world, polarizing fans and analysts for decades, as many felt his on-field brilliance should somehow outweigh his off-field failings. Yet for MLB, the sanctity of competition and the trust of its fans in a fair game were paramount, creating an impenetrable barrier between Rose and the Hall of Fame. However, a significant development occurred with his 2024 death, as a groundbreaking 2025 MLB ruling has now made him Hall eligible posthumously, as reported by MLB.com. A policy shift that sparks intense debate about redemption and the evolving interpretation of lifetime bans, raising fundamental questions about forgiveness and whether the passage of time, coupled with a player's demise, can alter the unalterable, a conversation that remains robust and active in the baseball community as the league grapples with its historical precedents in a rapidly changing cultural landscape, particularly with the proliferation of legalized sports betting, where the strict separation between those who play and manage the game and those who bet on it becomes even more critical for maintaining public trust. The most infamous foundational moment in MLB's history of permanent bans predates Rose by decades and established the iron-fisted authority of the commissioner's office. The 1919 Black Sox scandal, where 8 members of the Chicago White Sox were permanently banned for allegedly conspiring with gamblers to intentionally lose the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds, a betrayal that shattered public trust and nearly brought down the nascent sport, the very memory of which instilled a fear of gambling that continues to haunt MLB to this day. The implicated players included some of the era's brightest stars. Eddie Saccott, a dominant pitcher with a career 209 and 149 record and a 2.38 ERA, whose curveball was legendary. Shoeless Joe Jackson, an offensive marvel with a .356 career batting average and 1,772 hits, whose raw talent was undeniable and whose alleged involvement spawned the iconic Lefty Williams, another formidable pitcher boasting an 82-48 record and a 3.13 ERA, along with key position players like Chick Gandil, .277 AVG, Fred McMullen, .256 AVG, Swede Risberg, .243 AVG, Buck Weaver, .272 AVG, who famously refused to participate in the fix but was banned for his knowledge of it, and Happy Felsch, .293 average. Despite varying degrees of involvement and often flimsy evidence, all 8 were banned by newly appointed Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, a judge brought in to clean up the sport, who declared that no player who throws a ball game, no player who undertakes or promises to throw a ball game, no player who sits in confidence with a bunch of crooked gamblers and assents to participate in a crooked deal has any place in organized baseball. This uncompromising stance not only solidified the commissioner's unparalleled power, but also established a zero-tolerance policy against gambling that became the bedrock of baseball's integrity, ensuring that any perceived threat to the game's competitive fairness would be met with the most severe punishment. In a significant posthumous development, as reported by The Guardian, these Black Sox players are now also considered eligible for Hall of Fame consideration, a recent policy shift that, much like the Pete Rose ruling, signals a potential softening of previously ironclad bans and invites a fresh wave of debate about historical justice versus maintaining the absolute integrity of the game. This contemporary discussion is amplified by modern technology, which makes any large-scale conspiracy incredibly difficult to execute and conceal. As advanced analytics, pervasive media coverage, and the heightened financial stakes ensure that every play, every pitch, and every player decision is scrutinized like never before, rendering the likelihood of a repeat Black Sox-level scandal virtually non-existent. Yet the enduring legacy of their bans serves as a perpetual reminder of the fragility of trust in sport. Reinforcing MLB's post-Black Sox zero-tolerance stance was the swift action taken against Jimmy O'Connell, a promising New York Giants rookie outfielder with a .270 batting average and 96 hits in his brief career, who was banned in 1924 for offering a $500 bribe to throw a game. This incident, though much smaller in scale than the Black Sox scandal, was significant because it demonstrated that Commissioner Landis was not merely reacting to past transgressions, but actively preventing future ones, immediately crushing any flicker of corruption. O'Connell's ban, alongside that of Giants coach Cozy Dolan, who relayed the offer, solidified the league's message that involvement in gambling, whether direct or indirect, or even the attempt to fix a game, would be met with immediate and permanent expulsion, leaving no room for ambiguity or leniency. This quick, decisive action, post-1919, further cemented the commissioner's authority and assured the public that the game was being safeguarded from within, distinguishing baseball from other sports that might have been perceived as less vigilant against corruption. Today, the vigilance against such attempts is even more rigorous, with advanced surveillance, sophisticated internal investigations, and players educated on the severe consequences of any perceived or actual involvement in game fixing, making it virtually impossible for such a blatant bribery attempt to go undetected or unpunished. The financial landscape of modern MLB, with players earning millions, also acts as a natural deterrent, as the potential gain from a small bribe pales in comparison to the immense risk of losing a lucrative career and a lifetime of earnings, further fortifying the game's integrity against such desperate measures. While gambling and game fixing formed the primary basis for most lifetime bans, other serious violations have also led to permanent expulsion. Although less common for individual players, drug-related offenses, particularly repeated violations of the Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program, can lead to permanent ineligibility, though these typically come with the possibility of reinstatement after a period, differentiating them from the absolute finality of gambling bans. For instance, Jenry Mejia became the first player to receive a permanent ban under MLB's Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program in 2016 after testing positive for PEDs for the third time, a strong message from the league about its commitment to a clean sport. However, his ban was subject to a 2-year review period, allowing for potential reinstatement, a policy that highlights the league's approach to rehabilitation for drug offenders as opposed to the unyielding stance on gambling. This nuanced approach demonstrates MLB's adaptation to different forms of integrity threats, balancing punishment with potential recovery, a stark contrast to the unforgiving nature of the original gambling bans. These stories, from Pete Rose's polarizing bets that questioned the very moral fabric of personal responsibility within the game's rules, to the Black Sox's game-shaking fix that nearly destroyed its nascent credibility, and Jimmy O'Connell's swift removal, which reinforced a new era of zero tolerance, collectively highlight baseball's fierce and unwavering protection of its integrity, a principle that remains largely untouchable by modern salaries and technological advancements. The immense financial security of contemporary MLB players, with multi-million-dollar contracts, significantly reduces the allure of illicit gambling gains that drove players in the past, making the risk-reward calculation overwhelmingly unfavorable for any potential game fixers. Furthermore, the pervasive use of advanced analytics, StatCast data, and sophisticated monitoring systems means that any unusual patterns of play or performance would be immediately flagged and investigated, adding layers of transparency and accountability that were unimaginable in earlier eras. However, the recent 2025 policy shift regarding posthumous Hall of Fame consideration for both Pete Rose and the Black Sox players sparks a profound and necessary debate about redemption and historical revisionism. It raises critical questions. Can a lifetime ban truly be softened by death? Does the passage of time allow for a reevaluation of past transgressions, especially when those transgressions were pivotal in shaping the league's very foundation? Comment your thoughts and subscribe to support us. Love you all.